I'm Jake, 32 years. Regular guy, steady job, nothing flashy. I work in IT at a mid-sized firm, handle servers and coffee like they're both fragile and essential. I've been married to Claire for almost 4 years. Or, I was married. I don't know what to call it anymore. We met through friends. One of those setups where you don't expect anything, and somehow it just clicks. Claire was beautiful in that quiet way. Not the loud, Instagram-type beauty. More like the kind you notice slowly, in the way she listened, the way she laughed with her eyes. She worked in interior design, always had paint samples in her bag, always talking about space and light. Our life was decent. We weren't rich. We weren't dramatic. We had a nice apartment, a Sunday grocery routine, inside jokes about everything from cereal brands to terrible Netflix movies. It was simple, and I liked simple. I thought she did, too. But last Tuesday, her best friend Mia called me. That's how it started. Claire and Mia had been friends forever, college roommates, maid of honor at our wedding, always around, always laughing. I liked Mia, trusted her, never thought she'd be the one to drop the grenade. She called me in the middle of the day, which was already weird. She never called me. Usually just texted Claire about brunch plans or sent me memes about cats wearing suits. "Hey Jake, do you have a minute?" she said. Her voice was tight, shaky. I thought something had happened to Claire. But no, nothing like that. She said, "I can't keep covering for her anymore." I thought she'd come clean. She hasn't. You deserve to know. My stomach turned. My fingers went numb on the phone. Then she told me Claire had been seeing someone, a guy from one of her recent design projects. A client. It had been going on for months. I told her to stop. I told her to be honest with you, Mia said. But she's not going to. So I am. I didn't say anything at first. Couldn't. It was like trying to breathe underwater. Mia cried, apologized, said she didn't want to be in the middle anymore. She gave me his name. Eric, mid-40s. Owned some high-end clothing store downtown. I'd heard the name before. Claire had mentioned him briefly, said he was particular and tough to design for. I didn't think twice. I said thank you. Hung up. Then I just sat there, at my desk, in a cubicle full of to-do lists and cables and nothing that mattered anymore. I wanted to believe Mia was wrong. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe Claire told her something out of context. But deep down, I knew she wasn't lying. She sounded broken, guilty. And Claire had been different lately. Less touchy, more tired. She stopped asking me about my day. Started dressing nicer on random Tuesdays. Switched perfumes. Said she was trying something new. There had been signs. And like an idiot, I ignored them. I didn't confront Claire that night. I wanted to. God, I wanted to just throw the name Eric in her face and watch her flinch. Watch the truth twist out of her. But instead, I waited. She came home like she always did. Keys jingling, voice soft. "Hey, babe," she said, dropping her bag by the door. Traffic was awful. I was sitting on the couch, watching her. Just watching. She leaned in and kissed me on the cheek. Casual. Light. The same way she always had. But now, it felt like someone else's wife doing it. Like a stranger wearing her skin. "Dinner?" she asked. I nodded. We made pasta. Ate in front of the TV. She talked about a color scheme she was working on. Kept mentioning this client, but never said his name. She used to. Now she didn't. I watched her closely. Noticed how she smiled at her phone when it buzzed, then put it face down. That used to mean nothing. Now it meant everything. I didn't sleep that night. I laid next to her, listening to the sound of her breathing, thinking about how long this had been going on, what she was doing while I stayed late at work, thinking I was building something for us, how she kissed me goodbye and probably went straight to him. I remembered all the little lies. That night she said her meeting ran long, but came home with makeup smudged and hair down like she just had a great time. The overnight trip to Source Materials in the city, she said she stayed at a friend's loft. I asked which friend. She hesitated, then mumbled something about a girl from design school. And I believed it. Because when you love someone, you don't interrogate them. You trust them. That next day, I didn't go to work. I called in sick, said I had a migraine. Truth was, I just couldn't sit in that cubicle another minute pretending life was normal. Instead, I followed her. She said she had a client meeting at 10 a.m. So I waited until she left, then got in my car and tailed hers through morning traffic. I felt sick doing it. Dirty. Like I was becoming someone I didn't want to be. But I had to know. She parked in front of a downtown cafe. Nice place. Upscale. The kind of place you'd go for wine, not coffee. She stepped out of the car in a dress I'd never seen before. Something new. Something short. Red. Then I saw him. Eric. Gray suit. Sharp haircut. Walking up like he owned the sidewalk. He kissed her cheek. She laughed. Not nervously. Not guiltily. Like it was routine. Like this was normal for them. They walked in together. I didn't follow. I sat in my car and watched through the front windows as they got a table in the back. She leaned in close when he talked. He touched her hand across the table. That was the moment. The exact moment it became real. Not just Mia's voice on the phone. Not just suspicions or signs or distant guesses. I saw it. Claire, my wife, the woman I'd built a life with, holding hands with someone else like it was nothing. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, watching my marriage die through a glass window. I don't remember driving home. Not really. It was one of those drives where your body's on autopilot, but your mind is somewhere else, stuck on a loop you didn't ask for. Her laugh, his hand on hers. The red dress. The way she looked at him like he was the only one in the world. Like I never existed. I got home, walked into our apartment, and everything looked exactly the same. Shoes by the door. Half-full water bottle on the kitchen counter. A candle she lit every evening, still there. Still scented like sandalwood and fake peace. It was all normal. And yet, I wasn't. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, holding my phone. I had taken a picture. Just one. From my car window, then through the cafe glass. Not super clear, but clear enough. You could tell who it was. I didn't even know why I took it. Proof? For me? For later? For the moment, I knew she'd lied to my face, and I could finally say, then explain this. But now, just looking at it made me feel sick. This was the woman I shared vows with, who cried when she read hers, who said things like, "You're my home, Jake." I kept asking myself how long it had been a lie. And what did I miss? I walked around the apartment like a ghost, opened the fridge, closed it, turned on the sink, turned it off. It was like I needed something to do with my hands so I wouldn't fall apart. Then I saw it, her sketchbook, lying on the coffee table, half open. Claire never let people touch her sketchbooks. They were her raw thoughts, she used to say, her brain on paper. But this one was open, sloppy, like she didn't care. And on one of the pages, written in that soft, looping handwriting of hers, not a drawing, just words, was a name. Eric, written 4 times. Once small, once large, once inside a little heart. That broke me more than the photo did. She didn't just cheat on me. She loved him. I slammed the book shut, put it on the shelf like it had burned me. That night, she came home like it was any other Thursday, smiled, kissed me on the cheek. "How was your day?" I stared at her. "Fine," I said. I don't know how I got that word out. It tasted like nails. She didn't notice anything was off. Or maybe she did, but chose not to care. She made dinner, told me about a potential new client, asked if I'd want to go to the farmer's market that weekend. I nodded, lied, said sure. And all the while, that image of her sitting across from Eric burned in my head. Her eyes, her laugh, the way she leaned in. She wasn't mine anymore. Maybe she hadn't been for a long time. And she had no idea I knew. I didn't sleep again that night. Not because I couldn't. I didn't want to. Because closing my eyes meant seeing them together. That cafe. Her hand in his. That little smile she gave him when he said something clever. That smile used to be mine. So I laid there, in the dark, listening to her breathe beside me. And I wondered, how many nights had I slept beside a stranger? The next morning, I watched her move through the apartment like she always did. Coffee. Light makeup, little gold earrings. That soft hum she did under her breath while scrolling her phone. She even asked if I wanted anything from the bakery near her office. Like it was any normal Friday. I almost said something right then. Almost. But I didn't. Instead, I looked at her and said, "No, I'm good. Thanks." She kissed the top of my head and walked out the door. I stood there for a long time after that, watching the door. Listening to the quiet she left behind. You'd think silence would be peaceful. But after betrayal, silence just reminds you that you're alone in your own house. I went back to the couch and stared at the wall for a while. Couldn't bring myself to turn on the TV or check emails. Everything felt pointless. And then my phone buzzed. It was Mia. Just a short message. Are you okay? I almost ignored it. But then my thumbs moved. I saw them. She replied almost instantly. I'm so sorry. I was hoping. Maybe it wasn't real. That she'd stop. That part stung more than it should have. That she'd stop. So she knew. Knew it wasn't a one-time mistake. Knew it was something Claire chose to keep doing. I asked her, how long? The reply came slow this time. Since February. Maybe longer. I didn't want to believe it either. February. It was October now. That meant Claire had been lying to me for over 8 months. Laughing with me. Cooking dinner. Planning trips. Telling me she loved me. While building a whole second life in secret. Mia asked if I needed anything. I said no. But truthfully, I needed everything. I needed my wife back. The real one. The one who used to look at me like I was her whole world. Instead, I had this imposter. That night, Claire came home smiling, carrying a pastry box. I got those chocolate croissants you like, she said, holding it up like a prize. I stared at her, and that's when I noticed something I hadn't seen before. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. It was muscle memory, rehearsed, like everything else had become. She sat next to me, opened the box, and handed me one. I took it, held it, didn't bite, because I couldn't pretend anymore. I was done playing house with someone who had already moved out emotionally. She was lying with her words, her hands, her laugh. But worst of all, she was lying with her eyes. That night, I made a decision. I couldn't live like this, sharing a bed with someone who wasn't mine anymore. Holding hands with a memory, pretending not to see what was right in front of me. I needed to hear it, from her, out loud. I needed her to say it. So I waited until we finished dinner, until she was wiping the counter like she always did, humming something soft and sweet. I stood behind her, heart thudding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Claire, I said. She looked back, surprised by the tone in my voice. Yeah, we need to talk. She froze. That phrase does something to people, doesn't it? We need to talk. It strips away all the fake smiles and light conversations. It's a door slamming shut. It's a warning. She turned slowly. Okay, what's going on? I gestured to the couch. She sat, nervous now. I could see it in the way her fingers curled around themselves. I sat across from her, took a deep breath, and said it. I know about Eric. Her face drained of color in an instant. No denial, no confusion. Just a flicker of fear, like someone realizing the airbag didn't deploy after the crash. She didn't speak. I saw you two together, I continued. At that cafe. Yesterday. Still nothing. I followed you, I said. Because something felt wrong. Because you've been different for months. And because your best friend couldn't lie for you anymore. Claire finally looked at me. Tears were building. But I could tell. They weren't from guilt. They were from getting caught. Jake, she whispered. I waited. She shook her head slowly, like she was still trying to figure out her angle. Still deciding what version of the truth to give me. How long? I asked. She looked down. February, she said. My stomach twisted. Hearing it confirmed was worse than I thought. 8 months. 8 months of pretending. 8 months of being someone's safety net while they went chasing fireworks with someone else. Why him? I asked. Why anyone? She finally met my eyes. And what she said, it broke me. I don't know, she whispered. It wasn't supposed to be anything, but he made me feel alive. Like I mattered. Like I wasn't just someone's wife. That one sentence told me everything. She didn't just cheat. She rewrote the story of our life in her head. Turned it into something cold, routine, replaceable. Turned me into some faceless guy who brought home groceries and fixed light bulbs, while he got the version of her that smiled with her whole body. I stood up. Couldn't sit anymore. My legs were trembling. She cried. Reach for me. Jake, please. I stepped back. No, I said. You don't get to ask for anything right now. She dropped her hand. Silence filled the room, heavy and wet like a storm that wouldn't break. And I realized, in that moment, something simple and devastating. I still loved her, but I couldn't trust her. And without trust, love doesn't mean a damn thing. Claire didn't sleep in the bed that night. She stayed on the couch, wrapped in that old throw blanket her mom gave us when we moved in. The one she always said was too scratchy. I remember that because I caught her using it anyway every time she had a bad day. I guess last night qualified. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling. It felt like the air was thicker somehow. Like the room didn't want me in it anymore. Like it belonged to a different version of us, one that didn't exist now. What do you do the day after your marriage breaks? There's no manual, no steps, no timeline. Just this weird limbo where you're not single, not together, not anything. Just a person sitting in the wreckage of what used to be real. I got up early, didn't make noise, didn't want to talk. I just needed to be somewhere else. So I went to work. My boss asked me how things were going. I said, fine, out of reflex. I said it like I hadn't watched my wife admit to 8 months of lies the night before. I sat at my desk and stared at lines of code that didn't mean anything. The screen blurred, not from tears, but from this weird mix of anger and numbness. Like I wasn't angry enough to break something, but too far gone to feel anything else. Around noon, I got a text. It was from Claire. Can we talk tonight? I stared at it for a long time. Not because I didn't know the answer. I just didn't know if I wanted to hear her say more. Sometimes, silence protects you better than honesty. I didn't reply. When I got home, she was already there. Same couch, same blanket, but she looked smaller somehow. Not physically. Just like someone who finally realized she burned the bridge behind her and now had nowhere to go. She stood when I walked in, tried to say something. I held up a hand. Don't. She stopped. I walked past her, put my bag down, and stood in the kitchen pretending to read the mail. Anything to not look at her. Finally, I asked, did you love him? She didn't answer right away. That pause, it told me everything. She was measuring the damage, trying to figure out which answer would hurt less. I don't know, she said. I thought I did. Maybe. That maybe stung worse than yes, because it meant she wasn't sure, which meant he wasn't just a fling. He was an option. That was the ugliest part. She hadn't chosen me. She considered someone else while still sharing a home, a bed, a life with me. Why didn't you just leave me? I asked. She finally sat down, hands shaking. Because I didn't want to lose you, she said. You were safe, like a fallback plan, like a warm coat she could hang on to until the weather changed. That's what I have become. I nodded, jaw clenched. Thanks, I said. Now I know where I stand. She started crying again, but I couldn't bring myself to comfort her. Not this time, because I finally realized what I'd been to her. Reliable, predictable, replaceable. That night, after another stretch of silence thick enough to choke on, I told her, I think you should go. Claire looked up at me like I'd slapped her. Go where? I don't care. Anywhere that isn't here. Her mouth opened like she was going to argue, but she didn't. Maybe she could see it in my eyes, that I wasn't bluffing, that I had nothing left to give. She nodded slowly, like it physically hurt. I'll stay with Mia, she said, just for a few days. Until we figure things out. I almost laughed at that. Figure things out? Like this was a bad week, a scheduling conflict, a mess we could reschedule around. No, Claire. There was no figuring this out. She packed a small bag, quietly. No theatrics. She didn't touch anything that wasn't hers. She didn't say goodbye. Just grabbed her keys and walked out like she'd done 1,000 times before. But this time, I didn't expect her to come back. When the door clicked shut, the silence was different. It wasn't heavy anymore. It was hollow. I walked into the bedroom, looked at the half-made bed. Her pillows still indented from the night before. One of her hair ties on the dresser. A book she never finished on the nightstand. I didn't touch any of it. Just stood there, breathing. That's when the emotions finally hit me. Not like a tidal wave, more like a slow bleed. Pain in places I didn't know could hurt. Shame. Anger. Regret. Mourning. Yeah, mourning. Because that's what this was. I wasn't just losing my wife. I was burying the life we built. Every inside joke. Every late-night conversation. Every stupid little moment that felt so huge at the time gone. Contaminated. Something I couldn't go back to without seeing him there, in the background. The man who smiled at her while she wore the red dress I never saw. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I sat down at the foot of the bed and whispered to no one. What did I do wrong? Because that's where your mind goes. Even when you know the betrayal isn't your fault. Even when every sign points to her being the one who broke everything, you still wonder, was I too boring? Did I stop making her feel wanted? Did I let routine kill the romance? You question yourself because it's easier than accepting the truth. Sometimes, the person you love just decides to stop loving you back, and they won't tell you when it happens. They'll keep wearing the mask, until one day you see the face underneath, and it changes everything. Claire was gone. The apartment was quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful. It felt abandoned, like the ghost of our life was still walking around, opening drawers and waiting for a response that wouldn't come. I stayed busy, kind of. Did dishes that didn't need doing. Reorganized the silverware drawer. Cleaned the microwave 3 times. Anything to keep my hands moving and my brain out of that spiral. It didn't work. Around 9 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Mia. She texted twice already that day, asking if I needed anything. I hadn't responded, but this time she called. I let it ring once before I picked up. Hey, I said. Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bother you. It's fine, I said. Is Claire with you? Yeah. She's asleep. Or pretending to be. There was a long pause. Then Mia said something that caught me off guard. I didn't just tell you because I was tired of lying, she said. I told you because I couldn't stand watching you keep loving someone who didn't deserve it. That hit harder than I thought it would. I asked her, how long have you known? She sighed. I suspected back in the spring. She started pulling away from everyone, canceling plans, hiding her phone. And when I asked, she kept saying, I'm just stressed, or, it's complicated. But then I saw them. You saw them? Yeah, she said. About a month ago. I was grabbing coffee downtown and they walked right past me, holding hands. She didn't see me. I sat down. You didn't tell me then, I said. I wasn't sure it was my place, Mia said. But then she kept coming to me, venting about how confused she was, how she didn't know what she wanted. And every time, I'd ask, have you told Jake? And she'd say no. She didn't want to hurt you. I let out a bitter laugh. She was hurting me every day she kept lying. I know, Mia said softly. That's why I called you. There was another silence, heavier this time. I could feel something hanging there. A truth she hadn't said yet. Mia, I asked, is there something else? She hesitated. Jake. She said it wasn't just Eric. I blinked. What do you mean? I don't know the full story, but she mentioned someone else. Briefly, a while ago. She just said, I messed up again. I didn't push. I thought maybe it was a one-time thing. Maybe she meant the same guy. But now, I don't know. My throat went dry. So it wasn't just betrayal. It was repetition. Claire didn't make one mistake. She built a pattern. Mia apologized again, and I could hear real guilt in her voice. Not for telling me, for not doing it sooner. We hung up shortly after. She said to call if I needed anything. I said thanks. Didn't mean it. When I set my phone down, I stared at the wall for a long time. She cheated more than once. And still kissed me goodbye every morning. Still told me I was her everything. Still looked me in the eyes and said, I love you. Like a monster with perfect handwriting. It happened when I wasn't expecting it. No big trigger. No dramatic moment. Just me, alone, sitting on the floor of the bathroom. The door was open. The lights were off. I don't even know how long I'd been there. I'd gone in to brush my teeth. That was the plan. But I saw her toothbrush. Still there. Her little glass bottle of toner. A bobby pin next to the sink. And something cracked. The tears came out of nowhere, fast, quiet, uncontrollable. Not the kind you see in movies, where someone sobs and curls into a ball. No. These were quiet, bitter tears. The kind that don't even make noise. Just steady drops running down your face while your whole body forgets how to move. I cried for a long time. For the man I was before I found out. For the version of her that no longer existed. For the plans we made that would never happen now. The house we almost bought last summer. The trip to Seattle she was so excited about. The kids we talked about. When the timing was right. I cried because it finally hit me. She chose this. She looked at everything we had and decided it wasn't enough. And that realization, it doesn't feel like heartbreak. It feels like betrayal wrapped in grief, dipped in shame. I wiped my face on the sleeve of the hoodie she bought me for my birthday last year. Funny how the things that used to make you feel loved start feeling like a joke after someone cheats. I stood up eventually, looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't recognize the guy looking back. Tired eyes. Jaw clenched. skin pale. Not from sickness, just from carrying too much for too long. I looked like someone who'd aged 5 years and 5 days. And maybe I had. That night, I couldn't bring myself to sleep in the bed. I pulled the cushions off the couch and laid on the floor, wrapped myself in a blanket and turned on the fan just for the white noise. I didn't cry again, but I didn't sleep either. Just stared at the ceiling, counting the hours until the sun came up. The next morning, Claire texted me again. Just one word. Talk. I stared at it for a while. Not angry. Not heartbroken. Just tired. I'd run out of emotional fuel. I replied, come by after 5. I wasn't doing it for her. I needed closure. Not the dramatic, shouting kind. Just the kind that lets you say, this chapter is over. When she walked in, the place looked the same. But I didn't. She noticed it the second she saw me. I wasn't pacing or cold or trying to make her feel anything. I was calm. Still. I don't even know where to start, she said. Start anywhere, I replied. So she did. She said she never meant to fall for anyone else. That it started as emotional support, that she felt lonely, confused, adrift. That Eric was just someone who paid attention. That it spiraled. That it didn't feel real until she saw the look on my face when I said her name that night. I let her speak. But the more she talked, the clearer it all became. She wasn't sorry about what she did. She was sorry that it blew up. There's a difference. She never said, I wish I could undo it. She said, I didn't mean for it to go this far. And that's how I knew. Even if we tried to rebuild, the foundation was already rotted through. I loved you, I told her, finally. I know, she whispered. You could have told me you were unhappy. I would have done anything. We could have fixed it. Together. I know, she said again. And then came the part that hurt more than any other sentence she said. I don't think I wanted it fixed. Silence. That was it. Not explosive. Not dramatic. Just quiet truth. She gathered the last of her things. A box of books. Her slippers. A hoodie she used to steal from my drawer and sleep in. She paused at the door. I never wanted to be the villain, she said. But she already was. She just didn't want to feel like one. When the door closed behind her, it was different this time. No hollow echo. No heavy silence. Just a small, strange relief. Because the person who broke me was no longer standing in my doorway pretending to love me. I didn't expect to feel better. But I did. Not right away. Not like a switch. More like waking up from a long, uncomfortable dream and realizing you've been clenching your jaw the entire time. The pain's still there. But now, at least, you know where it's coming from. The apartment felt different. Not empty, just mine again. I cleaned out the drawers she used. Took down the framed photo from our first anniversary. Didn't throw it away. Just packed it. Maybe I'll look at it someday and remember the good without feeling sick. Or maybe not. Mia dropped by with coffee later that afternoon. No drama. No pity. Just quiet company. We sat on the balcony, watching cars go by. She said, I know it doesn't help right now, but I'm proud of you. I didn't say anything. Just nodded. I wasn't proud of me. Not yet. But I was starting to feel something else. Free. That night, I made myself real food for the first time in days. No takeout. No cereal. Just pasta and a little music playing from my phone speaker. The same playlist Claire used to hum along to in the kitchen. I didn't skip any songs. Even the ones that reminded me of her. Because I wasn't afraid of those memories anymore. They were just things that happened. Not things that owned me. But for bed, I texted my brother. Told him everything. He responded with, you want me to beat the guy up or just throw eggs at his store? I laughed. The first real laugh since it all started. Funny how healing sneaks in through the smallest cracks. Before I turned off the light, I stood by the window and looked out at the city, the same view we looked at together so many nights. This time, I looked at it alone. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for her to come home. It's been a few weeks now. Claire hasn't called. I haven't reached out. Some stories don't need sequels. I see her less like a person now, more like a lesson. A reminder to trust my gut. To ask the hard questions sooner. To love carefully, but not blindly. I still miss the version of her I thought was real. But I'm not stuck anymore. I wake up, make my own coffee, open the windows, let the day start without carrying the weight of someone else's secrets. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like myself again. And that's enough.